Chapter 1. The coffee had long gone cold by the time Dr. Eric Sorensen lifted his head from the computer screen. He blinked bleary eyes under the harsh fluorescent lights of the lab, trying to bring the display into focus. "Come on, give me something," he muttered as lines of data scrolled past. It was well after midnight, and the 13th straight hour he'd spent glued to the console, sifting through the endless stream of readings flooding in from Project Watcher 247, or PW247 for short. The rather boring official name belied the experiment's ambition. The first continuous monitoring program aimed at detecting gravitational waves and spatial anomalies that could indicate potential wormholes. Eric stifled a yawn and checked the time. 3:42 a.m. He should have gone home hours ago, but the day's results were too tantalizing to walk away from. The extremely sensitive gravitational wave detectors had been registering consistent fluctuations all day, subtle but impossible to ignore once noticed. It definitely warranted closer investigation, even if it ultimately proved insignificant. Leaning back in the creaking chair, Eric pondered the mysteries of the universe that had drawn him inexorably to physics ever since he was a child gazing up at the stars. Wormholes had always fascinated him most, bridges through space-time that could provide shortcuts across unfathomable cosmic distances. Many leading theories predicted their existence, though none had ever been observed. Until now? No, he cautioned himself against premature excitement. Anomalous readings alone were a far cry from confirmed discovery of an actual wormhole. Still, what if? Eric smiled ruefully as he imagined the reaction his wife Kamala would have to finding him still obsessing over the data at this late hour. She'd tell him the same thing she always did. The universe has been around for 14 billion years. It's not going anywhere. Come get some sleep. Kamala never failed to keep his feet planted firmly on Earth, even as his mind so often drifted out to the stars. Her pragmatism perfectly complemented his dreamy tendencies. As if summoned by his thoughts, Eric's phone pinged with an incoming text from Kamala. He glanced over and chuckled. "You still at the lab? Get some rest. Don't make me tell Dr. Singh you're not taking care of his star physicist again." Dr. Amir Singh was the director of the Center for Gravitation and Cosmology, where Eric carried out his research. He was kind and understanding, but Kamala loved to tease Eric about getting him in trouble. Smiling, Eric quickly texted her back. "I know, heading home soon. Just had to check on an instrument glitch. Love you." He felt a twinge of guilt about the half-truth, but knew she'd fret if he mentioned the anomalous readings. She worried his endless pursuit of wormholes had become a bit quixotic. But it was more than just scientific curiosity that spurred his obsession. Closing breaches in space-time could potentially prevent invasions from hostile alien universes in the future. If there was even a chance his work could someday protect the planet, he had to follow this lead. Kamala, of course, thought this concern was pure science fiction, born of too many episodes of Star Trek. Little did she know how real the threat could be. Dragging his thoughts back to the data at hand, Eric scrutinized the monitor again, looking for clues. He pulled up a visualization of the gravitational wave signal, amplified and processed to pick out any patterns from the background noise. Sure enough, the same ultra-low frequency modulation persisted through the day's data. He zoomed in closer. There did seem to be an almost imperceptible rise and fall to the waveform, hinting at a cyclic pattern. "Hello, what do we have here?" Eric whispered. Selecting a small segment of the signal, he fed it through an audio transducer to listen to the converted audio waves. Through the hiss and crackle, he could just make out a faint harmonic oscillation, almost below the range of human hearing, but unmistakable. That's no instrument artifact. A strange chill passed through Eric. These harmonic patterns couldn't be anything except an artificial signal, which indicated an intelligence behind it. Could it really be a transmission from the other side of a wormhole? Eric's heart raced as he scrambled to extract the possible signal from the data stream and amplify it. He had to be sure before calling Dr. Singh. This would be Nobel-worthy if confirmed. Hands shaking with excitement, he initiated a series of decoding algorithms to try translating the message. The computer chugged away at the analysis. As the signal clarified, Eric could discern a rhythmic repetition to the oscillating tones. Definitely a structured broadcast. He waited breathlessly for the translation results. "Come on already." At last, a message resolved on the screen. "Do not proceed. Turn back." The computer continued refining the heavily degraded signal. "Danger waits in the void. This is not the path. Turn back now. Do not." Just then, the lab's proximity alarm blared throughout the room. Eric nearly leapt from his chair in surprise. Someone else was here at this hour? Heart pounding, he hastily minimized the signal analysis screen and pulled up a security camera view of the lab entrance. Relief flooded through him. It was just Dr. Singh, keying in his access code. Of course, the director kept odd hours, too, given the groundbreaking nature of their research. No time to explain the full discovery now. He had to do this right. Eric quickly composed himself and walked out to greet Dr. Singh. "Dr. Sorensen, working late again, I see," Dr. Singh said jovially as Eric approached. His smile faltered as he noticed Eric's rapt expression. "Is everything all right?" "Better than all right," Eric replied breathlessly. "You're not going to believe this." The words tumbled out in a rush as he recounted the anomalous readings and the alien signal. Dr. Singh's eyes widened, his face paling at the implications. "Show me." Back in the lab, Eric brought up the data and audio analysis. Both men listened silently to the eerie translated message, a warning echoing out of the void itself. Dr. Singh finally leaned back, removing his glasses and massaging the bridge of his nose as he absorbed the revelation. "So, it's confirmed then," he said slowly. "A signal through a wormhole." "It would appear so," Eric replied, barely able to contain his exhilaration. "We always hypothesized intelligent life could evolve around wormholes providing pathways between dimensions otherwise cut off. And now we've found one." "Indeed." The director rose and paced contemplatively. "Your discovery has just placed us at a crossroads, Eric. This will fundamentally alter society's understanding of our place in the universe. We must proceed carefully." He turned back to Eric. "For now, speak of this to no one. We need to confirm the signal and decide how to release this information without causing panic. I know you must have 1,000 questions racing through your mind right now, but threading this needle will require the utmost prudence." He gripped Eric's shoulders warmly. "You've done remarkable work today. Get some rest and we'll meet first thing tomorrow. Well, later this morning, to discuss next steps." Eric nodded, simultaneously elated and sobered by the weighty decisions to come. As he made his way home through the darkened pre-dawn streets, the translated words echoed through his mind. "Turn back now. Do not proceed. Danger waits in the void." He shivered involuntarily despite the warm morning, a nameless apprehension nagging at the back of his mind. What awaited them on the other side of that wormhole, and why did it seem so intent on keeping them away? Chapter 2. Eric awoke to the smell of sizzling eggs and coffee. Bleary-eyed, he shuffled into the kitchen where Kamala was already up and cooking breakfast. "Well, well, look who decided to come home and get some rest after all," she teased, handing him a steaming mug. "I was starting to think you'd just sleep at the lab." Eric laughed groggily. "No such luck. Dr. Singh kicked me out around 4 a.m. after I showed him the—" He paused, remembering he hadn't yet told Kamala about the strange readings and signal. "Showed him what?" she asked, her brow furrowing with concern. "Oh, just an instrument issue I was trying to fix," Eric covered quickly. "False alarm, but he said I was too sleep-deprived to make any progress and sent me packing." Kamala looked mildly skeptical but let it go. "Well, I'm glad. You work too hard sometimes." She gave him a quick peck on the cheek. "Now sit. Breakfast is ready." Eric smiled and tucked into the meal, the domestic normalcy grounding after the life-altering events of the previous night. As much as he wanted to tell Kamala about the discovery, Dr. Singh was right that discretion was needed until they understood it fully. After eating, Eric made his way to the center anticipation building as he walked briskly through the summer heat. Today, they would attempt to confirm the signal and pinpoint its origin. If it really emanated from a wormhole, the implications were staggering. First contact with an alien species. Proof of his theories. Despite the ominous warning in the message, Eric's curiosity burned. What incredible truths lay on the other side? Arriving at the lab, he found Dr. Singh scrutinizing panels of data with two other scientists from their team, Dr. Lee Chen and Dr. Hugh Matthews, the leads on waveform analysis and signal processing. Eric recounted the full story of detecting and translating the message. "Incredible," breathed Chen. "I can't believe it. Actual evidence of a wormhole." The others murmured excitedly. Dr. Singh raised his hands for quiet. "I understand everyone's enthusiasm, but we need to proceed methodically. Our first task is confirming the signal's origin point in space." He turned to Matthews. "Can you triangulate the source based on the data stream?" Matthews nodded. "I've developed an algorithm that should let us pinpoint it pretty accurately." His fingers flew across the keyboard as he input commands, parsing through the readings from their gravitational wave detectors to trace back the subtle spikes indicating signal origin. Eric, Chen, and Dr. Singh gathered around Matthew's screen watching tensely as a model of their solar system populated with markers for the detector's positions. A dotted line appeared, converging on a point just beyond Pluto's orbit. "There!" Matthews exclaimed, "at the edge of the Kuiper Belt." "Pull up the deep space imaging for that sector," instructed Dr. Singh. Matthews complied, bringing up a grainy image against the blackness of space. Eric squinted at the screen. Was that a small, shimmering spot near the calculated point? Matthews zoomed and enhanced the image. There was no doubt now. A faint, pulsating distortion was visible at the precise, triangulated coordinates. "A wormhole," Chen whispered in awe. Eric felt a chill down his spine. The proof was incontrovertible now. Dr. Singh exhaled slowly. "Well, we appear to have confirmed Dr. Sorensen's remarkable discovery. Let's waste no time attempting to communicate." Over the next hours, they focused a transmission beam on the wormhole, modifying the frequency to match the signal pattern Eric had decoded. Now they could only wait and observe the wormhole for a response. Eric found himself pacing the lab anxiously. What would the aliens do? Was humanity prepared for this? A disturbance around the wormhole interrupted his thoughts. Peering at the enhanced imaging, he saw the edges fluctuating wildly. "It's destabilizing," he said. The others looked up in alarm. "Keep monitoring," Dr. Singh ordered tersely. "Record everything." They watched, transfixed, as the small wormhole warped and distended. Suddenly, several cylindrical objects shot out from its center, accelerated by gravitational slingshot. "Probes!" Chen exclaimed. Sure enough, the objects were now clearly visible as metallic, spacecraft-like structures on an intercept course with Earth. "This is incredible," Eric breathed. "Our first look at actual alien technology." The mood in the lab shifted from wonder to tension as the probes neared, their purpose unknown. Watching the main display, they could now make out intricate, articulated movement as scanners and collectors extended from the probe hulls. "Fascinating design," mused Matthews. "Highly adaptive." The team murmured in agreement, forgetting their anxiety for a moment in their admiration of the engineering. As the probes approached Earth orbit, Eric noticed a marked increase in the electromagnetic signals around them. Were they attempting communication? He quickly set up a receiver, filtering out the surrounding noise. A stream of complex waveforms filtered through the static, modulated in the same way as the original wormhole signal. Eric rapidly parsed the transmission through translation algorithms. "Anything?" Dr. Singh asked tensely. "Almost there." "Okay, here it is," Eric said. Everyone leaned in to read the message now, resolving on the screen. "We mean no harm. Sealing this gateway prevents future calamity. Further exploration endangers both our worlds. Please, heed this warning." A sober silence fell over the room. "They seem to really want us to leave this alone," Chen said nervously. "Should we be worried?" Eric shook his head. "This is first contact with an alien civilization. We can't just walk away now. Who knows what wonders we could discover together." Dr. Singh looked grave. "Their warnings are concerning, though. We should be cautious." "Exactly. We need more information," Eric argued. "If we can establish communications, maybe they'll tell us what this supposed threat is. Then we could make an informed decision." Matthews nodded reluctantly. "I suppose it couldn't hurt to try talking with them first." Eric looked around at the team. "We have to at least try. This is too monumental to ignore without fully assessing the risks and rewards." Dr. Singh considered this for a long moment before responding. "Very well, but at the first sign of trouble, we close communications. Are we agreed?" The team voiced their assent. Eric felt a heady mix of anxiety and anticipation as he turned back to the console. This was really happening. Humanity's first exchange with an advanced alien civilization. The possibilities at this moment seemed endless. Hopefully they could build a constructive dialogue, thought Eric. Still, a nagging doubt lingered as he recalled the alien warning foretelling calamity. What were they so afraid humans would unleash? Chapter 3. Eric fidgeted restlessly, unable to focus on the reports in front of him. It had been 2 weeks since the alien probes appeared, and communications were still ongoing. The aliens, who called themselves the Vor, had proven friendly and patient. While continuing to warn against exploration of the wormhole, they answered question after question, explaining their civilization and technology. Humanity had gained volumes of invaluable knowledge already. Yet Eric felt increasingly uneasy. All of the Vor's scientific and cultural insights just made him more eager to actually travel through the wormhole himself. He understood their caution, but how could they expect humans to resist the opportunity for first-hand encounter? Knowledge had always been worth the risks. Eric looked up as Dr. Singh entered the lab. "Any updates?" Eric asked, trying not to sound overeager. Dr. Singh shook his head. "The Vor remain adamant that the wormhole be left alone. I know it's frustrating, but we're making diplomatic progress. We just need more time." Eric nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead. What if, instead of waiting for permission, he took the initiative himself? He was more than capable of piloting one of their probes through the wormhole to take sensor readings and images. Just a quick trip across the threshold and back again, without traversing too far. It would demonstrate humanity's capabilities and their right to explore this discovery. Eric knew Dr. Singh would never approve such a risky plan, but he could do it alone after hours, take precautions. This was too significant to let diplomatic bureaucracy get in the way. That night, after the center emptied out, Eric initiated his plan. He prepped a compact sensor probe for transit, programming its autopilot and an automatic return. If anything went wrong, it would come back through the wormhole within 10 minutes. Donning his spacesuit, Eric entered the launch bay. He ran through final launch and transit checklists, hands trembling slightly in his gloves. This was really happening. "Explorer 1 ready for transit," he said over the radio, addressing the imaginary mission control in his mind. "Bound for parts unknown." Eric smiled. He had dreamed of uttering those words since he was 8 years old. The probe finished pressurization and stood poised above the launch tube. Taking a deep breath, Eric initiated the launch sequence. With a rush of escaping air, the probe shot upward on a column of flame. Through the bay's massive windows, Eric tracked it rising further and further until it was just a glinting speck against the night sky. Turning back to the control room, he watched the navigation displays and transmitter closely as the probe approached the coordinates of the wormhole. His heart pounded in his ears. "Explorer 1 arriving at target zone," he radioed, preparing to enter. Making a final course adjustment, the probe oriented itself toward the nearly invisible shimmer of the wormhole. Eric grinned in anticipation. Here we go. Suddenly, warning alarms blared around him as all the displays flashed red. "What the?" Eric muttered in shock. The probe's telemetry signal was going haywire. Eric watched helplessly through the video feed as the craft pitched and yawed violently. Electrical discharges surrounded it as the wormhole's gravitational pull seized control from the autopilot. "No, no, no," Eric pleaded, hands flying over the controls trying to stabilize the tumbling probe. But it was useless. The video feed dissolved into static as the probe was dragged inevitably into the wormhole's swirling nexus. Its structural integrity warning screamed louder until silence. Eric sat back heavily, despair washing over him as the signal cut out. The probe was gone, destroyed or lost irretrievably through the wormhole. What have I done? Numb, Eric could only sit staring blankly ahead. After an eternity, movement on the screen shook him from his daze. An incoming transmission. Eric opened the channel cautiously. Dr. Singh's worried face appeared on the screen. "Eric, what's happened? Are you all right?" Eric nodded mutely. Dr. Singh's expression darkened. "Our telemetry registered an unauthorized probe launch. You didn't—" Looking down in shame, Eric explained what he had done. Dr. Singh leaned back heavily as he listened, palming his forehead in frustration when Eric described the probe destruction. "Oh, Eric, I know your curiosity pushed you, but this was incredibly reckless," he admonished gently. "We need to inform the VOR immediately." As Eric dreaded, the VOR were dismayed to learn of his actions. But they also seemed oddly unsurprised, as if they had anticipated this stubbornness from humanity. Eric endured their stern but empathetic scolding. "While we understand your species' drive to explore, in this case it will only court disaster," the VOR envoy said gravely. "Now that you have seen what awaits beyond this gateway, please, reconsider your path." What did await beyond? Eric wondered despairingly. With the probe lost, they may never know now. Over the next days, Eric pored anguishedly over the garbled data transmitted back before the destruction. Most was unusable, but a few snippets of imaging survived. Enhancing them, Eric began to make out strange shapes and structures, utterly foreign. As the images clarified, he gasped aloud. Jagged, empty structures could be seen, as if a great city stood abandoned. Eric's hands shook with revelation. This was a civilization deserted and lifeless. What could have driven away an entire advanced society? Eric felt his blood run cold. Was this the grim fate the VOR were warning them against? He hurriedly summoned Dr. Singh and the others to view the images. As he explained their possible meaning, his colleagues grew somber. "A dead city," whispered Chen. "What happened to them?" "Nothing good based on the Vor's warnings," said Matthews grimly. Dr. Singh sighed heavily. "So this is why they've tried so hard to deter us. They know whatever destroyed this civilization could spread without the wormhole barrier." He turned to Eric. "I don't condone your reckless actions, but it seems your probe discovered a dark truth we may all need to heed." Eric nodded, a nameless anxiety creeping over him as he pictured the vast, abandoned metropolis. What unimaginable catastrophe had befallen them? And were the Vor right to fear humanity's awakening some dormant evil in the void beyond the wormhole? The thought kept him awake long into the night. Chapter 4. Eric sighed in frustration as yet another Vor envoy delivered stern warnings through the wormhole. Didn't they realize nothing could dissuade humanity's explorer spirit? Closing off this marvel permanently was simply unfathomable. In the weeks since first contact, the Vor had grown more insistent in their pleas for the wormhole to be sealed. Eric still believed their fears were exaggerated. Perhaps some unknown space anomaly had extinguished that long-dead civilization. But with proper precautions, humanity could traverse the wormhole without releasing any grave evil, as the Vor ominously termed it. The envoy's shimmering projection now hovered in the lab explaining urgent matters to Dr. Singh. Eric only half listened, lost in his own brooding thoughts. "Breach in our containment grid allows entities access to your dimension. Please, seal the doorway before your world suffers the same fate as Tarkai 5. Containment grid? Eric felt a grudging curiosity penetrate his apathy. He interjected impatiently. "What exactly is so dangerous out there? You speak so vaguely of some catastrophe." The Vor ambassador wavered in surprise at the outburst but replied solemnly, "Eons ago, a ravenous swarm emerged from the darkness beyond the farthest galaxies. Consuming all life and resources in their path, they expanded unrestrained across the cosmos. We call them the Endless Hunger." Eric resisted a skeptical frown. Impatient with these cryptic doomsday prophecies, he asked, "So where are they now, then?" "We sacrificed much constructing the containment grid to halt their advance and protect what worlds we could. For long ages, the grid has held them at bay." The Vor paused gravely. "But now, your reckless actions threaten to undo our fragile peace." Eric bit back a caustic retort about fear-mongering. Before he could reply, Dr. Singh stepped in diplomatically. "We appreciate your warnings, but please understand humanity's need to explore and grow. With prudent safeguards, we can uncover knowledge while avoiding this hunger." The Vor ambassador wavered in resignation, but left with a parting plea. "Heed wisdom gained through painful experience. Some doors are best left unopened." Afterward, Dr. Singh admonished Eric for his dismissive attitude. "I know their presence frustrates you, but restraint and courtesy are key now." Eric nodded begrudgingly, but he believed the Vor's phobia of some ancient, vanquished enemy was irrational. Their obstruction had to end. Despite endless debate, the UN Council refused to order the wormhole sealed. Other world leaders independently sent ships to survey it, emboldening Eric. He knew Dr. Singh planned a petition to formally request Vor permission for a crewed expedition. But Eric was tired of waiting. Late one night, he readied an exploration pod outside normal protocols. He felt certain a solo pilgrimage would show the Vor their fears were antiquated. Slipping away unnoticed, he launched toward the shimmering wormhole. Breaching the event horizon was jarring, but the trip smoothed quickly. As Eric hurtled through the glowing tunnel, he prepared to document any significant findings. So far, only swirling fractal patterns surrounded him. Perhaps the Vor's monsters were mere fairy tales. Ahead, a small breach opened up into empty space. As Eric scanned the area, his monitors registered a massive object emerging from the void. He squinted through the pod's windows at the mammoth, shifting shape barely visible against the blackness. It almost seemed the darkness itself was coalescing before him. Eric gasped as an enormous vessel drifted into view, easily dwarfing anything built by humanity. Its geometry was bewildering, more like an asteroid than ship. Swarms of smaller crafts detached and swept toward him on buzzing tendrils. Alien attack ships, Eric realized with a shudder. Had they been lurking beyond the wormhole for eons? The Vor's warnings no longer seemed so far-fetched. Eric quickly activated an evasive turn-back sequence, but the alien swarm penned him in effortlessly. Through his flickering comm signal, he heard Dr. Singh's panicked voice. "Eric, get out of there now!" Heart-pounding, Eric re-engaged the main engines for rapid acceleration away from the still-growing fleet. Their strange technology could apparently manipulate gravity, pulling him back like a receding tide. He imagined them gray goo disassembling his pod and forced down rising panic. After a desperate struggle, the wormhole's mouth finally came in sight. But as Eric prepared to re-enter its sheltering embrace, proximity alarms blared a warning. The wormhole was destabilizing. He had no choice but to hurtle helplessly through as the opening collapsed behind in a violent burst of hawking radiation. Eric regained control on the other side, initiating emergency protocols to stabilize the dilation. The lab team swarmed his pod anxiously as he emerged on shaky legs. Questions bombarded him, but the alien images still burned bright in his mind. Dr. Singh stared gravely at Eric. "You saw it then, the hunger." It was not a question. Eric nodded, shame welling up inside him. "You were right, and I was a damn fool." He recounted the nightmare fleet. A heavy silence descended on the group as his story sank in. Finally, Dr. Singh spoke. "What's done is done. All our fates now depend on keeping that sealed." He put a steadying hand on Eric's shoulder. "I know you only wish to unveil mysteries, but some doors are best left closed." Eric bowed his head, the weight of his recklessness settling on him. Looking up at the silent, looming wormhole, he shuddered, imagining the ravenous forces massed just beyond its veil. The Vor had been right after all. Exploring this doorway would mean humanity's end. Chapter 5. Eric observed solemnly as a Vor contingent used a strange technology to induce rapid decay around the wormhole. Like a time-lapse video, the shimmering opening aged centuries in minutes as its exotic matter evaporated. Soon even its residual gravity signature faded to undetectable. The deed was done. The way was sealed. Eric should have felt relieved it could no longer endanger Earth. Instead, unease churned within him. Ever since his disastrous voyage revealed the truth lurking beyond, he had cooperated fully with the Vor's closing plans. But watching the wormhole collapse stirred anew that restless hunger for exploration in him. They had barely glimpsed the mysteries awaiting on the other side. What discoveries remained tantalizingly out of reach? No. He forced himself to remember the abyssal fleet poised to invade should the wormhole reopen. Curiosity was not worth unleashing that horror. Still, doubt lingered. In the following weeks, Eric buried himself in routine work, trying to forget the seething void's unplumbed secrets. But distraction proved impossible as strange incidents began mounting around the lab. One morning, panicked shouts drew Eric to a rear hangar. A supply shipment was strewn chaotically across the floor as if blown apart from within. Foreboding prickled his neck. Had microfissures started forming already? The accidents escalated over days. Critical data corrupted beyond recovery, power failures, vicious injuries from malfunctioning tools. The staff grew rattled, but scans found no system issues or temporal anomalies. Until finally past midnight, the base alarm wailed urgently. Eric rushed to the control room, dreading what he would find. The team stood gaping as screens showed exterior camera feeds. A writhing mass pressed against the perimeter barricades as if trying to ooze inside. As they watched, several globules detached, skittering up the walls erratically, almost like liquid shadow. Dark comprehension washed over Eric. The hunger ... it quote S found us. Dr. Singh paled, but immediately began issuing rapid orders to seal hangars and ready defenses. The team sprang into action, mobilizing security systems and hazard containment measures. But Eric noticed the inadequacy of their efforts against this ethereal enemy. It was only a matter of time. He found Dr. Singh alone, watching the ravenous mass swell as it surrounded the complex. Eric cleared his throat gingerly. "I know I'm the last person whose advice you want, but please, reopen the wormhole." Dr. Singh turned to him in shock. "Open it? After all this?" He gestured helplessly at the squirming darkness. "That's what brought these demons." "I realize that now," Eric said ruefully. "But I still believe knowledge is worth the risks. Our weapons are useless against this. Only the wormhole offers escape. Please, sir, trust me. Just this once more." Silence stretched between them. Finally, Dr. Singh sighed heavily. "Even if we wanted to, the technology is lost to us. The way is sealed, as it must remain." Eric looked down dejectedly, but then an idea sparked. "The probes. The Vor probes have the reopening ability built in case of emergency. With your access, we can activate them." Dr. Singh massaged his temples as if warding off a headache. "You're suggesting we undo our very salvation? Madness." Still, he seemed to teeter on the brink of decision. A tremendous crash shook the complex. On the monitors, the main barricades cracked open, and the thrashing darkness poured through. Time had run out. Eric turned pleadingly to Dr. Singh, who stared back resolute now. "Do it." They raced to the lab where the probes sat dormant. Eric's fingers flew across the alien interfaces until finally a harmonic hum indicated activation. Laboring together, they maneuvered the orb-shaped devices into alignment around where the wormhole once hovered. Eric held his breath. Initiating reopening sequence, now. The probes resonated with accelerating energy, space-time rippling around them. For several agonizing moments, it seemed the ruined wormhole wouldn't respond. Then slowly, an iridescent orb formed between the probes, yawning wider until the shimmering passage stabilized. The way was open. Alarms blared as the creature attacked the lab's final layers. The team evacuated rapidly through the wormhole, not sparing a glance back. Once through, Eric quickly recalibrated the probes to induce another collapse, but suddenly he hesitated, gripped by hesitation. Did they dare seal this path again without fully understanding the entity? What if other secrets lurked deeper in the void, waiting to be found? The lab's steel walls groaned as the creature tore through. Eric's window for action closed rapidly. He shook his head angrily at his own conflicted thoughts. How could he still be plagued by reckless curiosity after unleashing this horror? There was only one course now. Eric initiated the shutdown sequence, watching the wormhole's roiling edges constrict. But as the last aperture narrowed, he found himself gripped by a powerful compulsion. All they had learned indicated an unimaginably ancient and advanced species lay shrouded in the blackness beyond. What cosmic revelations might their knowledge hold? Surely that was worth pursuing at any cost. Acting on some strange instinct, Eric rapidly coded a final message. As the wormhole collapsed, his transmission shot through the tightening bottleneck. Your attempts to contain human curiosity cannot succeed. We must explore further. Before he fully realized what was happening, Eric was strapping into an emergency escape pod. Setting the autopilot to follow his probe's lost trajectory, he paused only a moment to look back at his startled colleagues outside. Dr. Singh's face registered confusion, then dawning horror. "Eric, stop this madness!" he shouted, pounding on the hatch's window. But Eric felt pacified somehow, like he was finally acting on destiny's true course. The hunger had shown them the door, after all. Now was humanity's time to understand its terrible mysteries. "I have to do this," he said calmly over the podcom. "We were meant to find each other." As the airlock seals engaged, he gave the team one last wistful smile. "Take care of Kamala for me." Eric barely heard their pleading cries as the pod shot into the collapsing wormhole. His heart thrilled as the creature briefly encircled his pod almost tenderly, like a shepherd ensuring its lost sheep was found. Then it receded, a silent promise that they would meet again soon. As the wormhole imploded with a final flash, Eric soared toward the waiting darkness. Ahead, the monolithic fleet stood ready to receive humanity's messenger.